Welcome back. So these are the ingredients you're going to find in a Chinese household for everyday cooking. You obviously don't need all of them, but if you could choose one, what would it be?
Oh, definitely light soy.
Why?
For sure.
Why would it be light soy?
It just gives you the Chinese flavor that other sauce can't achieve. And in fact, this was the very thing that not this particular bottle, but when I went to university, obviously I had limited space, so I could only have a couple of things for my little space. So the light soy was the one thing that I chose.
So two things then. First of all, lots of people sort of argue back and forth between light and dark soy.
Yes, we have dark soy here. You don't need dark soy. You don't have to have dark soy, but it's better you have it. However, if you can only choose one thing, definitely choose the light over the dark.
So people will ask, what's the difference? Why would you use light over dark soy?
So the light soy have a much lighter consistency, and the flavor is much lighter than the dark soy, and the dark soy is a lot thicker. I don't know whether you can see. So it's mainly for the food coloring, the
sauce,
the sauce, and the flavor is just slightly different. So for non-Chinese cooking people, is that the right term? Non-Chinese. Some of them may not even tell the difference, but we can. So if I create a dish, if I need to sort of create a certain color, I would use maybe 1/3 of the dark soy and 2/3 of the light soy. But for day to day, the light soy is definitely the one I go for.
So you would say for most cooking, you could get away without this one?
Absolutely,
so
yes.
That kind of settles the debate somewhat.
For us anyway.
For us.
Yes.
Obviously, you can debate it in the comments.
Yes.
Say what you like in the comments, within reason.
Yes. And
so light soy.
Yes.
Okay. What else?
And if I have to say, okay, I have space or budget for one more, I would choose a chicken powder.
And so a lot of people might ask, what is chicken powder? Is it literally chicken carved up, dried and put together? What is it?
Basically, chicken powder is just use chicken and some of the rice powder to create a chicken powder. It's basically a bit like a gravy powder. So it's like this. So
as an interesting aside, we have some guests, sometimes when I'm making a peppercorn sauce to go with steak, certain guests cannot have any beef or any beef ingredients. This, believe it or not, is actually a fantastic alternative because it still adds that kind of tangy flavor that you might get with the beef stock, but without using beef stock. So if you don't eat beef, or you just don't want beef in your dishes, this is actually quite a good alternative for that.
Yes, and usually we buy a bigger bottle like this because it's more cost effective. However, if you have this open and close all the time, this will get quite clumpy.
Yeah.
So we keep a big one and we keep a small container. So every time
we refill that one.
We refill that one, but that sort of is our backup option.
Okay, so let's move from the most common, which was the light soy, and the chicken powder.
Yes.
And then going through the most used, the most common to the least used, least common, least understood. What would be next? So
I would say a good Chinese rice vinegar. You can see we use quite a lot. That is very, very good to create sweet and sour. So we use this along with some sugar.
Obviously the sweet with the sour.
Yeah, and with some tomato. That's all you need for sweet and sour. So basically just light soy, some chicken powder, Chinese vinegar, rice one. So it has to be that sort of color. That can also create sort of like a coloring for the food. So you actually don't need the dark soy.
And you can't just use any ordinary vinegar like malt vinegar instead of this. It doesn't work, does it?
No, the taste will be different. So I would say those 4, you can create a sweet and sour dish.
Excellent.
Yeah. So moving
what would
on.
Be next?
Moving on, I would say some of the dry ingredients maybe. We'll go through that in a minute. We'll go through that. I think a chili powder is very important for us. You can create chili oil, you can create spicy food.
If I may say as well, don't get this from your sort of standard supermarket in little packets unless...
Yeah, like this. They are just not the
like
same.
Like this one. We tried this and, well, mainly because we ran out of the really good one that we get from China, but during COVID that was. But this, it just sort of burns. It's just, as it suggests, it's just hot. But it's not the same. I mean, it's good. I'm not criticizing it, but it's not the same as this. You need to go to the proper Chinese supermarket to get proper dried chili flakes. It's no alternative.
Yes, and if you struggle to find those, you can get the dried chili and
Make it yourself.
Make it yourself, but it's not the same. But we use this for stew or for stir fry because that's more intense. The powder version is more intense than this. So if you have somebody who doesn't want a lot of heat but just want a little bit of that taste, and that would be a good option to have.
But these will just throw in whole. You're not going to start chopping them up. You throw them in whole, then the spice and the flavour comes out of them. But as for things like this, the flakes version, it's that old adage that they can do it better than you and cheaper than you, so you might as well buy it from them.
Yes, and this is a sesame seeds. We have the black version and the white version. We're out of the black version. These are normally for sort of a decorative dish that just add a little bit of that, the color, the feel, and the texture to the meat. You normally toast them. You put them at the end of a dish, and it's just fantastic.
I love sesame seeds. Most people that love prawn toast will instantly know the flavour that these provide.
Absolutely. And talking about sesame oil is a very good option to have. We don't use it very often, but when we do a very smoky flavoured stir fry, adding a drop or two of the oil, it can lift the dish. Moving on, these, I don't know whether people can normally get them from normal supermarket, star anise, and these are sand ginger. We use them for stew, Chinese stew. I normally use them I use them together. You only need one of each for a big pot, so you don't need a lot, and these last forever. And the next one is my favorite, but for sure nobody actually, you don't have to have it, but it's my favorite. It's a citron peppercorn. So it's different from the traditional black peppercorn. It's the flavor is very, very different.
I can even smell it from here.
Yes, and we have some of them in here. So if we have
grind them up like
we grind them like a normal
pepper.
No, like a normal pepper. And I use these two and these two when I make a special chili sauce.
It's funny, I've never seen anybody else doing this and put it in one of these. I don't recall even in China, I don't remember seeing this. They probably did and didn't notice, but...
I think it's because in China we use quite a lot of it, so we...
You just dump them in whole.
No, like you have them in a dish. They come in a powder form, so that you use it quickly, but because we don't use them enough, so we want to preserve the flavor, so we put them in those. The next thing is 5 spice. Again, you don't need to have them. We probably use them twice a year for different dishes, a few times a year. It's not the sort of the everyday ingredients that you need to have, but if you love Chinese food, you want to build on your cupboard, that's one of the very authentic Chinese flavor.
And obviously if you want to do salt and chili anything, you need the 5 spice. But again, you can't just buy supermarket own brand stuff. It is not the same. It tastes nothing like it. It does not give you the same even nearly the same kind of flavor.
So we buy them in the sort of the Chinese supermarket in the bigger bag, and we put them in the small containers to keep them fresh. Next thing is, again, you don't need it, but it is good. It's MSG. It's basically just a form of salt.
And there's lots of people complain about MSG. It's just another form of salt. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't cause cancer. It doesn't cause illnesses. It's just another form of salt, but very tasty form of salt.
So if you like to do stir fry, you like to marinate your meat, Shaoxing rice wine is a very good ingredients to have in your cupboard, because you get rid of the bloodiness in the meat, and you just add another depth of flavor. But when you cook them, obviously the alcohol would evaporate, so you don't actually end up consuming alcohol, but it's really good. When you see a chef cooking and then they cook, sort of have fire coming out, so that when you have sesame oil and that mixed up, they just created that authentic Chinese stir fry taste that you can't achieve just by a normal pan fry.
And between these and the MSG, that is what the sort of traditional Chinese takeaway smell and flavor comes from. The combination of these when those are cooking. The MSG, particularly the MSG, but also these as well.
And next thing we move on to dark soy. We mentioned it briefly earlier. You don't need to have it, but it's good to use in combination of this, because it adds more color to a dish, sort of a slightly darker, richer color to the dish, and it's because it's thick consistency, so it gives you a little bit of a sweetness and a stickiness to the dish. And next thing, again, you don't have to have it. We have it because we use it.
I noticed we got to a certain point when it's like, you don't have to have this, you don't have to have this, you don't have to have
Yes.
this, but the more you have.
Yes, oyster sauce. So you use them in stir fry, use them in the hot pot sauce. So it's a, Chinese dish, there's lots of use out of it. But for people who cook Chinese now and again, you don't have to have it. And these are really useful for cooking, but not just for Chinese cooking, but for any cooking really. Cinnamon stick you can use in a stew pot, and fennel seeds. And we use the fennel seeds for roast pork as well as many of our Chinese cooking dishes. And oh, I forgot to mention those ingredients. Obviously, everybody can get them: spring onion, ginger, and garlic. So if you only have like these two, well, 4, maybe the chicken powder, can create most Chinese dish, can't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even if you don't have the garlic, you can cheat, or if you don't have the time for the garlic, you can cheat with the garlic granules. It's not the same. It doesn't really replace the garlic, but if you just want to do a very quick dish, very quick replacement for garlic flavor, the garlic granules is fine. It is obviously coming from garlic, but
similarly, you can have the ground ginger if you don't have ginger in hand, because these obviously last so much longer than these. We don't use lots of ginger, we should, but we don't.
And as an aside with the garlic, the granules, if you have a leftover baguette or any kind of bread really, and you don't want to waste it, then we don't have it here. But if you've got olive oil and butter and these garlic granules, and then cheese if you're feeling really funky, then soak it in some olive oil, sprinkle some garlic granules, bit of butter on it, in the oven for 10 minutes. Even old, almost stale baguette, it will crisp them up, and it's just as good garlic bread as you'll get anywhere else.
These over here, I don't think you can buy them from normal supermarket. You'll be lucky if you can find them. These are fantastic to create anything Sichuan cuisine, you need those. You can homemade them, but it's really difficult to make them.
Yeah, again, it's one of those where it's more difficult, more expensive to make your own, and the only way it would be anything close to worth it is if you do a massive vat of it, which you won't, because you won't use.
No.
So, and it still won't be as good, won't last as long, so you might as well just buy it.
So we'll buy a small part, keep in the fridge, and it will last for a long time. Similarly, shallot sauce, again, do you need to have it? No, but it just creates that flavour. If you, when we do a duck and bean sprout, we use this.
Yeah, I was just about to say, duck and bean sprouts and rib dishes, this I was hunting for ages to figure out what really gave it the flavour, and this is one of them.
So basically, the shallot sauce contains the soy sauce, sort of a bean paste with some shallot. So, you know, if you don't have it, you can sort of fake it yourself, but it's not the same. This one we use now and again when we do barbecue satay sauce, when we grilled chicken breast. Again, you can make it yourself with a peanut sauce and everything else, but it's just much more authentic when it's in one of those Chinese jars.
And I would say this is probably more of a quick and ready thing than anything else. So you slice up some chicken, thinly marinate it in this, fry it up or whatever.
Yeah,
it's fairly quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much what they do.
And the next thing, similarly to the satay sauce, it's the rib sauce. Again, you marinate your sauce overnight or for half an hour. Put in the oven. It's one of those quick and easy sauce. And moving on, these are my favorite. They are black mushrooms. They are in the dry form, so you need to soak them in the oil. I'll create a dish to show you guys how to use them. But again,
I'll try and put up a screen overlay if I find some old footage.
So again, these are not something that you can easily find in normal supermarket. But
Never seen them in normal supermarket.
But they're really, really good. Another thing you need is a corn flour. When you do deep fry, or when you're trying to make your meat tender, a corn flour is very good to have. But again, you can find those in any supermarket. So moving on, we have 3 types of noodles we readily have. These we normally use for noodle soup, and these are rice noodles. And these are the pain in my life. They are Lucky Boat noodles. You can use them for stir fry, but you can't buy them in a small form like that.
And just to clarify why they're a pain, because if you go out to buy them yourself from it, even from the Chinese supermarket, you can't buy them anywhere else, save for one place I'll mention in a minute. You have to buy a huge box of them, and then you either store the box somewhere, or you package them up like this and you store them all in every cupboard that you can possibly find. The alternative is you go to Zhang's Food Workshop website, chinandchew.com, and you can buy them from there. So links in the description. Massive fan, great friends, check it out. In fact, I'll show you their book. 1 second. They have not 1 but 2 books out with everything you could possibly think of for step-by-step instructions how to make everything they make properly, in the proper way, in a Chinese takeaway. Most of which you could probably do with the stuff that's here. And if you can't find it in supermarkets and you don't want to go to a Chinese supermarket, go to chinandchew.com and you'll probably find it on there.
Talking about that, they kindly gave us some of those curry paste.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you, like I say, if you can't find it and you just want to be quick and easy, you'll know that this is the proper stuff because this is what they use. And same goes for pad thai sauce.
We use
what else do you have from them?
Sweet and sour sauce.
Oh, you can also get your MSG from them as well.
Yeah, so we use that type of noodle go with the pad thai sauce. So the final thing we have here is the Chinese dates. They dried dates. They are sweet because we don't actually use sugar for our cooking, so we use these whenever a recipe say add sugar, we tend to just add dates to add a bit of a sweetness to it.
Yeah, because apart from the sweet and sour, which you kind of have to have some sugar, apart from that, we don't deliberately add sugar to anything, but this has got a natural sweetness which sweetens up most dishes, which is really great.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, obviously we have a lot more other ingredients, but that's the core ingredients we use for day-to-day cooking. But as a beginner, I would say start with a light soy.
And you can make pretty much everything you want with the first few, and then if you're feeling really funky, try the rest.
You can build on, yes.
And the key is to try. If you try it and you don't like it, then you don't do that again. But as with most cooking, you try something, it works, and then you do it again.
Hope you enjoy this, and thanks for watching.
Happy cooking!